Let's make something happen. Let's make something happen. Let's make something. Hello everyone, Ryan here, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the new Mr. Lif Akrobatik album titled Resolution. Mr. Lif and Akrobatik, also known as the Perceptionists, have come together to create this collective, and they have had an album before this called Black Dialogue. Unfortunately, I've never heard it, but after hearing this album, I'm pretty much certain that I want to go back and hear that album. I'm just going to go right ahead and say that this is easily one of the best hip-hop albums I've heard all year, and I've heard a lot of hip-hop albums so far, and this is got to be in like the top 5, I think. The production on this album is absolutely stellar. Even at points the beats are pretty simple, but they are so freaking good. It's unreal how good these beats are at points. Like I said, they're not the most creative beats, but that doesn't stop them from being so great. And then we have Mr. Lif and Akrobatik themselves, who ride these beats so damn well, and they trade off each other incredibly well too. They have really good chemistry, and they're an underrated duo, I think, now in the hip-hop world. Lyrically, they're both really intelligent rappers. If you're one of those people that looks more for lyrics when it comes to hip-hop, like I typically do too, these guys are definitely going to be something that you want to be hearing. And of course, Mr. Lif is already a household name in like underground hip-hop anyway, so if you've heard albums like I Phantom, which is an absolute classic underground hip-hop album, then you probably already knew how good he was going into this album. I don't know a huge amount about Akrobatik, to be honest, but I definitely want to go back and hear some of his solo stuff because this guy is so great. Particularly on like the final 2 tracks where they both get rather introspective and it gets a little personal for them both. A Different Light is a really good track. It slows things down in comparison to the rest of the album, but it doesn't mean that it's anything that's less interesting because this is where they both get really lyrical. Here Mr. Lif is talking about how, he's kind of at the toughest point in his life, but yet the person who he expected to kind of support him didn't really show any support at all. And then on the second verse, my favourite verse on the song actually, with Akrobatik, where he comes in and he's like talking about how, there are times where you have friends, but then you find out that they're not really friends because they don't really show any kind of support at all when you're at your lowest point. Just that alone really is really relatable for anyone that who's experienced that sort of thing in their own life as well. I do really like the tone to this track as well, and the closing track as well, Resolution. They both just have this like really slowed down mellow tone to them, which really works well because actually previously on the album there were a few bangers in the mix too. Particularly the track Hose Down, which is got to be the biggest banger on the whole album. This track is just insane. I love the bass on this track. It just really hits really well, and the way it kind of bounces on the beat as well, and then the chorus with the hose down with the guy called Sign on the chorus. This track would just be absolutely insane live. I really love this song. A completely different track in comparison to everything else on the album, because this is like the second track in, and it just doesn't have like a tone set for the rest of the album. It kind of is out of place, but it's so damn good. And then there's Let Me Find Out, which has this really snappy trap beat on the song, and it has a really dark undertone to it as well, because when the chorus comes in with the whispery vocals on the chorus, it kind of has this like really paranoid, kind of like weird schizoid type thing going on. But the diversity of the tracks on this album is really quite impressive as well, because Sign again comes in, who was on the track Hose Down. He's on the track Free at Last, which is a completely different sound to Hose Down. I mean, it's an uplifting song with an amazing soaring chorus. It just is so like, it's just got this like inspiring sound to it that it really works so well. And Akrobatik's verse touches on, racism in America and how he's still targeted, and, how poverty in his neighborhood is the majority. Some really great lines on his verse, and we also get a very similar theme on the opening track as well. The track Early Mourning, which is such a fucking hard-hitting way to start the album. I mean, Akrobatik again is like the one that stands out on this track for me. In the first verse, with so many things that he says in this track, talking about the stereotypes of black people in America. and how if there was patrol in the neighborhoods, would there still be the same kind of crime rate because of how there's this neglect to these certain areas in America where police don't really particularly like touch on or anything like that. Obviously, as well, he takes a jab at politicians, and then he even mentions how gay people have a hard time coming out in the community as well because there's all this humiliation surrounding it. Like, Jesus Christ, this verse was just insane. The amount of things Akrobatik said on this verse was just unreal. I mean, what a way to start this album. Easily going to go down as one of the most impressive verses I've heard all year. We also have the track Out of Control, which has this really good chorus as well, probably my favourite refrain on the whole album. And just how catchy this song is as well. I mean, I would probably go down as to say this is my favourite on the entire record. The track itself has these really Tribe Called Quest vibes to the beat and the jazzy instrumental too. The way they flow on the verses really reminds me of Space Program, which was the opening track to Tribe Called Quest's latest album, which was easily my favourite song on that whole album too, so I really love this track for that as well. When Push Comes to Shove has another really catchy refrain and chorus. It's another one of the hooks on the album that repeats itself over and over again, but they do it really well because it never ever feels like it's overplayed or ever gets boring. They're really good at making good choruses that last long, but they don't feel like they're dragging. And as I was saying at the start of this review, they have such great chemistry. I mean, on the track Grab Hold, they're literally trading bars and, playing off each other, and it's probably the best that they have on this album in terms of chemistry. This album is honestly such an underrated release. I wish people were talking about this. Of course, I had to review it because I'm in love with this album as well, and it's one of the best hip-hop albums of the year. I'm going to go really high and say this is an A-. Please go check this album out. I'm not overhyping this at all because it genuinely is a really great album, and I hope you enjoy it too if you listen to it. Let me know what you think of this album if you already have heard it, and also subscribe to the channel if you want more reviews, want to hear more reviews as I do them every day, and also have a good day.